So it's Friday on the Curse of Politics. Thanks for getting up on the morning after whatever the hell that was last night. Jenni Byrne's here. She watched it. Scott Reid's here. He watched it. Nick Taylor-Vasey's here. We don't know whether he watched it or not. Nick, what'd you think of the debate last night?
I did watch it, much to my chagrin, although I did slowly turn the volume down to watch the Blue Jays final out when they swept the New York Yankees in the Bronx for the first time in a million years. That felt good. But
Nick,
did watch the debate.
Nick, you got a problem, right? Those powers that be at Politico cannot take you out of that living room. You were stranded there. Since you started sitting in that living room and broadcasting with us beautiful people every morning, the Jays have been on a glorious run. You can't go to some Comfort Inn and have that all turn around. This is on you. You hold the wild card hopes of the Toronto Blue Jays right there in your little destination.
I mean, I'll send it up the chain.
So,
I don't want to...
Yeah, I think it means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, myself included. You have no idea how conflicted I am now that I've sort of been confronted with this this dangerous new reality.
So, what's the consensus out there about how the leaders held up against the withering moral superiority of the journalists last night?
That's not a loaded question, so I'm happy to answer it. No, I far be it from me to disagree with three people like you who, as you know, I have a healthy fear of. But I do think it's worth pointing out, and you're going to disagree, and I'm not scared of it. I think there's a current out there that says, whether it's journalists or a pollster named Shachi Kurl, people are tired of bullshitting politicians.
Well, then, Nick, my advice for the press gallery would be ask those fucking questions when they have the opportunity, because I have watched law ball after law ball being hurled at Justin Trudeau at press conferences for the last 6 years. So I'm not sure why they decided last night what they were going to start actually doing their jobs and asking politicians real questions.
I mean, fair enough. I'm just saying that I think there are people out there who watched who weren't pissed off about it. And I think they're not talking about the moderator or the format today. I found it hard to follow. I think the Blue Jays was probably better viewing. And the worst part, I think, and I think everyone pretty much in the country agrees, is that was it for English language debates. There was one in French that we could kind of watch if we had simultaneous translation, and then there was another one in Quebec that was probably the consensus pick as the best of the lot. And half of the rest of the country didn't even know it was happening outside of Quebec. So the debate commission that produced this thing that a lot of people do absolutely hate, and everyone's allowed to hate it, I think really, they kind of fucked it up, because now we don't have another mulligan. We can't watch these leaders again. So maybe that's the common ground here. But I do think it's worth pointing out that there are people who did watch last night, and they're not talking about the format today. They learned something or they didn't learn something, but they're not blaming the format.
I think you're wrong.
Hide from you, and I'm just
that's
come
good.
back on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. No. What happens is you go away and we talk about you.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
And then I listen.
That's what's going to happen. Yeah. Can you give us a preview? Can you give us a preview of how these leaders are coming out of this? What are they doing today and going forward?
So Trudeau's going to Hamilton, which is just racking
Fuck
up.
off. Really?
Everyone's going to Hamilton. Yeah. What's going on there? Are they giving out free donuts? Like, that place is busy.
Yeah. So that's where he's, I guess, hoping to eke out a seat or two. Aaron O'Toole is headed to the GTA. He's going to Mississauga. He's going to Mississauga Lakeshore, which, if you believe that the Conservatives are going to win a seat in Mississauga, I think that's the pick of the one that's likeliest to go, though I'm not sure anyone is saying it's likely. And then he's headed back closer to his stomping grounds in Whitby on the east side of the GTA for an event at a barn, the most exciting place to hold a political event in all of Whitby, I'm sure.
I want to see the dressing for the barn. I want to see the outfit for the barn.
Yeah. Oh, and Jagmeet Singh. Sorry, he's going to vote today, because today is advanced poll day, or at least it's the first. So he's flying out to BC, and he's going to vote for himself, and then he's going to have a party about it. And I say good for him.
Right on.
I know he's voting against Trudeau. Are you sure he's voting for himself?
Yes,
I would, well, you know, it's a secret ballot. It's a secret ballot. Maybe we'll never know, you know.
All I know about Jagmeet Singh is he's against Trudeau. Anyway, thank you, Nick. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday morning, bright and early.
Absolutely. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about me. So long.
Wow.
Take care, brother. Check out the Political Playbook today. All right, let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's go.
EKOS overnights. 3-day roll. 1,200 cases. 33 Conservative. 30 Liberal. 17 NDP. 4 Green. 12 People's Party. 4 Bloc Québécois. Any questions? Anything more you want?
Got any regionals for us? You gonna dazzle us with
Ontario,
corner of the country?
Ontario. I'm so scared of all these regionals. Ontario at least has 440 cases, so that's a margin of error of 5%. And the Liberal lead is 5%. 39-34. NDP at 15. People's Party today at 10.
All right.
Other regionals you'll have to wait till September 20th for, I think. So, Jenny, what'd you think of last night?
What did I think of last night? Well, yeah. I thought it was the most unwatchable debate I've ever seen in the 24 years that I've been involved in politics. I have no problem with tough questions. As I said, I would love to have seen seen the media ask all of those leaders all of those questions. But the fact that Scott, they did exactly what you kind of asked them not to do in your curse yesterday, and it was they made themselves the show. They started right off Sachi, how her tone and tenor. So it started off right that way, and then when the interjections would come, where you'd have at one point O'Toole would be in the middle of, he'd say something, Trudeau would go to respond and like basically be cut off. Like it was just so bizarre to watch. If that's the format that people want, then that's not a debate. We should have a giant, every leader gets a 1-hour live editorial board where they can everyone can sit around and watch them be grilled by a member of each of the outlets and media. And that's because that's ultimately what it was. That was not any way a debate. I think the only thing coming out of that debate, if people didn't watch it, are going to be that this debate was terribly moderated and no one could follow it. I don't think there's any good clips coming out of that debate at all for anybody.
So, Scott, I was nodding in vigorous agreement through everything that Jenny just said.
Yeah, I'm in pretty strong agreement. I thought it was Billy Goat bad, and that's bad. Put out the Miss Menzies grade 2 joke book there. I really hated that thing. I hated it the way Con hates Kirk. It was really difficult to watch. Really, really, really fucking hard to watch. And I hope, and my beef, just to be clear, I'm actually not, I didn't think the journalists were all that much to blame. I thought the format was savage. I thought the format was savage, and I thought it was severely over moderated, and it led to a situation that, as Jenny said, where you couldn't get organic, authentic interaction between the leaders. They couldn't disagree about something and then wheel and go, well, wait a minute, that's not fair. Here's some. None of that could have happened. So people could just stand, and then we give like 35 seconds of Jenny's awful, here's why. Then Jenny would say, well, do I get a chance to respond to that? And then the answer would be, go fuck your hat. And then we would move on. And then there would be an argument between 3 of randomly of them, 14 minutes later. So I thought the format really, to Nick's point, I think people want to, see something where the leaders aren't permitted to just bullshit. I thought that was the problem with it. It actually only allowed for bullshit and only allowed for little tiny 30-second runs where you can make a claim, make an assertion, and boom. And I think it really worked, particularly to the disadvantage of the prime minister. And that's not like, this thing was all biased. What I mean is that the format permitted all the challengers to slam the incumbent. That's what happened. He started getting flustered. So I think the format worked to the prime minister's disadvantage as the incumbent. And then I think he handled it poorly. And it took him until like maybe the last half hour to find any kind of rhythm. But he started looking flustered, speaking too quickly, speaking in like little random policy bits that you couldn't understand. At one point he said, we have a project lead for that.
Wait, before we get into him, I just want to, before you let the journalist off the hook completely, because I agree the format was bad, but you know what you don't hear in a real debate? You don't hear the moderator passing judgment on the quality of an intervention by a participant in the debate.
Yes. Well, I think I want to distinguish between the moderator and the journalist. I thought in the Quebec debate, the journalists who came in were too aggressive. I thought last night it was about the moderator. I thought that the moderator was just. But it was both. It was both.
It was the moderator, but it was also the journalist. Like a participant. It's any of them. Like it's not just geared towards one candidate. They'd be in the middle of answering, and the journalist would go, "No, that's not what you said. That's not what you said 2 weeks ago. That's not what you said about this last year. That's not their job. Their job is to open the question. It's the job of it's not it's not the moderators or the journalist's job to question Aaron O'Toole.
Hold them accountable. That's the point of the debate, is for the other people to hold them accountable.
That's right. That's the point. There was one point early on, like in the first 20 minutes or so, where they finally got to one of those open sessions where three of them are supposed to be arguing, and Singh starts talking about something, and the moderator comes in and says, "That's not the subject matter. Stand in the corner. I'll call on you later. Maybe I'll call on you later. But recess is lost for you, Mr. Singh."
Yeah, like it's not. It's there was no opportunity for the other.
Bless you. Oh, bless your little Fenton Falls heart.
That was such a sweet little sneeze, too. Such a
teeny hummingbird of a sneeze.
There was just no opportunity for debate. So I think people lost out on that. As I said, if they want to go with a different format and do like a live ed board, then that's fine. They just can't call it a debate. That would be so I actually think that unfortunately there was no winners. I think Aaron did very well. Because he was never really on the attack. No one really had an opportunity to gang up on him, and he only intervened when necessary. He didn't try to kind of break into debate. So I think he did well there. The problem is because it was such a clusterfuck, and because it was such a shit show. If you didn't watch the debate last night, which I assume the vast majority of people did not, that the only thing coming out of it seems to be people complaining about the format, and then some things here and there. So it's no one's going to really know actually what happened at the debate. I don't think anything like this is. There was no moment that I've been watching clips last night and this morning. There's really no moment that anyone shone, and I think that's unfortunate for Aaron and the Conservatives, because he had a really good night that's going to be overshadowed by the fact that the debate was unwatchable.
We've been talking the last little while about perception versus reality, what we think versus what actually is. So here's a good one. Perception. Kale, a popular member of the cabbage family, is good tasting and good for you. The reality, kale is inedible and quite possibly evil. If you manage to choke it down, be prepared for possible bloating and taste bud anger management. Most of us think of our presenting sponsor TELUS as a Canadian telco, but the reality is TELUS is a technology company that's worldwide in scope, with social purpose at the core of what they do. So let me tell you about TELUS International, which went public earlier this year. TELUS International uses applied digital technology, including artificial intelligence and machine learning, to help businesses all over the world, including many in Canada, to better connect with their customers and operate far more efficiently. That leads to growth on both the top and bottom lines. Why is this important now? Well, like you might expect, COVID provides some context. Digital adoption has accelerated by 7 years over the course of the pandemic. I'm betting that most of you are living that reality right now. in how you work, what you buy, and how you connect. Which means these innovative, technology-driven solutions developed by TELUS in Canada are more important than ever. Sure, TELUS could spend their money on sports franchises and media properties like their competitors, but they don't. Instead, TELUS would rather invest in industries like healthcare, agriculture, and so many more to make people's lives better. Go to TELUS.com to learn more. Well, let's get into what the three of them did or didn't accomplish last night. I mean, if you apply the old Keith Davey test of watch it with the sound off, and I have that benefit because I can barely remember what anybody said last night anymore, but I can remember what I thought about them. And I thought that the Prime Minister looked irritable and aggressive and unsettled. And I thought that O'Toole looked calm and unruffled. And I thought that Singh was significantly less happy warrior than he normally is, maybe more edge to Singh than I normally see out of him. I mean, if that, I'm going to start with this with the caveat that I always do when we first start talking about debates, which is it's in the eye of the beholder, and it isn't rated like a debate. So the fact that somebody was more professional in making their points or whatever doesn't necessarily work. And I don't pretend to know and won't know until the weekend, at least, what, if any, impact this debate had. But my feeling watching it was that it was not a good night for the Prime Minister, and therefore it was a good night for Aaron O'Toole.
That's very much how I felt.
I think that's fair, and that's why I said it will for people that watched it. We all saw that. We'll see if it translates then into the people that didn't watch it. Is it going to filter down to people that Aaron had a really good night and the Prime Minister didn't? I'm not sure that's the case, simply because the format was so overwhelming in terms of share of voice that I'm not sure it will get there. Like I had the TV on in the background as I was getting ready for bed last night, and one of the networks had swing voters that they've been bringing on every once in a while and interviewing. And the first woman they asked, the things she liked most about the debate is Trudeau weirdly acting as Blanchette's translator for about 2 or 3 times. Like he'd be like, "How do you say social housing? Social housing. Thank you, Prime Minister." And she actually said that was her favorite part of the debate because it looked like they were friends and and they were getting along nice. So David, to your point of what you've been saying all week on the debates is who know, like we all watch for one reason, but what people see is a totally different one.
Well, Blanchette was actually my favorite part of the debate. He had my favorite moment of the debate last night anyway, when he lost his temper with the moderator and then lost his temper and got smashed by enemy Paul. Like when he lost he's like screaming at the moderator, "Oh, you give so much time to Alberta, but never to Quebec, not to me." I thought that was super fun to watch. But when enemy Paul, when he started like screaming, and then enemy Paul just wheeled at him and said, "Hey man, I've invited you over to have coffee and talk about how not to be a racist, and you haven't shown up." And he lost it. It was great. She just completely body checked him. But look, that was fantastic. And I thought she did do damage. I mean, she started the debate, with that, with the run of naming the decision, not just to make the argument, but the decision to specifically, as a matter of television presentation, say, "I'm going to name the women," and the Prime Minister just has to stand there and let that wash over him. That was a really effective critique. Like that was a really effective critique. But I come where you guys are.
She didn't bring them and put them in the front row.
Well, no, but
like Trump would have.
It was pretty effective. But I agree with everything you guys are saying, and I got to tell you, as someone who's argued that I do think these debates matter, I hope I am wrong about that, because if the debate mattered, I still want to see the Liberals win. And if the debate mattered, then it's trouble for Trudeau, because the format just worked desperately to his disadvantage. He handled it badly. I'm with you, David. I thought that he looked irritable, out of sorts. He couldn't get on rhythm. He couldn't he never once really grabbed O'Toole by the lapels and put him in the corner on any of those. Like, we didn't hear guns, we didn't hear abortion last night. There was nothing, and I thought O'Toole did what he needed to do.
Did he actually lose the climate exchange with O'Toole?
He sure did.
He lost the climate exchange with O'Toole.
Aaron won the climate exchange. Yeah, Aaron won the climate exchange.
Yes.
He was thrown off right from the really started. It was from the beginning, but what really threw him off is they actually were clever in terms of the questions they did around the leadership section, where they although there was no foreign policy, and I complained about that yesterday, they got it in. So they used the leadership section to ask about Afghanistan and the two Michaels, and you could tell he was completely unprepared for that. And that was kind of, to me, the start of like when he became extremely, extremely agitated.
He also, that was also, in addition to format, there's also luck, and he had some bad luck with that draw, because by starting on that issue of leadership and accountability, it creates a natural dynamic where the other leaders are going to really go heavily upon things he's done wrong, failures that he's had on critical issues. And so that started the dynamic where it almost teaches the participants, oh, I see, speak for 30 seconds, make it hard against the PM, and then you move on, and the next person does that. And that created that dynamic. It rattled him. He never recovered. But, from my perspective, it was a situation where the Liberals have to hope that debate didn't matter, because if it did, it's not good.
Well, he also drew the short straw in terms of the pick for the podium placement. The fact that not only was he the focus of everyone's attack for the most part, he was also in the middle. Like, it was a terrible draw for him for optically as well.
A little bit of praise for O'Toole, not just like saying, well, this was a debate format that was tough on Trudeau. To be fair to O'Toole, and your point about climate change highlights it, David, he very quickly got the format. Like, I think more than anyone else, Singh was also pretty good, and Singh would do something when he would turn his body, and this is why I think maybe, David, you came away with the impression he was more aggressive last night. He would turn his body and full on dial in the person to whom he was speaking, particularly the Prime Minister. But O'Toole got the format quickly and inherently. So he quickly sort of said, I've got 35 seconds to do a run. I'm going to infomercial here. And so he had that rhythm, and he caught it early on. And so he did what he was doing the first 2 weeks. He just sort of said, hi, Canada, I'm unthreatening, plan, I've got a plan. Other guy, no plan, shit plan, bad plan. And he adapted to the format in a way that Trudeau did not.
Agreed. But I think 100% agreed. I think they all did. But part of it was because of the format. The only person that was actually somewhat on stage, so to speak, or part of the debate was Trudeau. Every exchange involved him. So there was one point where it was him and Annamie Paul and Blanchette who were on one side of the stage. And it was almost like Singh and Aaron didn't exist. Like, it was kind of like, do you want to go grab a quick beer and we'll come back in like 10 minutes and we'll jump back in. Like, right. So it was all like part of how the format was structured. It
was a trial, and he was always the defendant.
Yep.
Okay, but one last thing about him. One last thing about him, which is whether it was on full display last night, but I also thought it was on display in the French debate, particularly when the kid asked the question about climate change. Where is Trudeau's EQ these days?
Yeah.
Where is his EQ? I didn't see it in evidence last night at all.
No.
I didn't get empathy from him in the right circumstances.
I agree. I agree. It showed up a bunch of times. It showed up in a dangerous way, and it could have harmed him more, but it didn't quite land as sharply as it might have, and badly in the Annamie Paul exchange when she named up the win. And then he wheels and says, I'm not going to take caucus management advice from you.
My God, I recoiled at that
You're not reading what this is actually about then, okay? Like, so it wasn't about dealing with your caucus management. So that was an EQ issue. I understand that line. He had that line waiting because it was a clever line to use on her. But it was, you got to smell it better.
If I was him, he should have not let her get under his skin, because there is no reason for him to really fight. Like, we've talked, like there are 85 ridings.
They have no candidates. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's 85. They're polling at like anywhere between 2%, 4%, 5%, depending on the poll. And there's 85 ridings where there are no candidates that the Green Party is running. And a lot of those ridings, I assume that if people go into the ballot box, the Liberals will definitely be one of their second choices in terms of who are they going to mark on their ballot. So there was no need for him to be, from a strategic point of view, chippy. I just don't think there was any strategy. I think if whatever prep that they probably did, it was thrown out the window in the first 5 minutes, and he was just flailing on his own.
Well,
I did hear.
Before.
So I was just going to say,
Scott.
Jenni, you made this point early on, and again, I keep saying I hope this turns out to be the case because I fear that the debate was very hard for Trudeau. But I heard from a lot of journalists last night that they were having trouble isolating the clip of the debate. So the narrative of the debate, other than clusterfuck of a format, what is hard to isolate, and so that may help the Liberals. It may at least help them turn the page and get to the campaign back to being about something else very rapidly if they have a good day today. And you always want to program a day that allows you to take over the story the day after the debate in case you have a shitty day.
Maybe the clip is I got an A and you got an F. Remember when he was comparing grades on their plans with Jagmeet? What is that about? Anyway, so we got to go. We're out of time, but we can't leave without mentioning something happened yesterday that might be more significant than the debate in this election, and that was Premier Legault's endorsement of Erin O'Toole in Quebec and his urging of nationalist Quebecers to vote for the Conservatives. Wow. Excuse me. Wow.
Yeah.
That is a big, hairy fucking deal. It signals to me that he thinks the Bloc are done, Legault, and that he thinks that Trudeau is headed for too big a win in Quebec, and he wants to splinter that up so that there's no strong Quebec alternative voice to him. But that's my read as to what he's doing. But the impact could be enormous. I mean, I sort of made fun a little bit when Stephen Marr made a point about this yesterday, but, it's out of all context. Let's remember, Maurice Duplessis got Quebecers to vote for John Diefenbaker. So it's not unimportant what Quebec premiers say is in the best interest. This is potentially a game-changing deal.
I think, it's going to go one of two ways. So it's a game-changing deal. I think it was a huge endorsement. Legault tipped his toe in the water earlier on the campaign, but this was obviously more explicit. I was talking to people in Quebec, though, that did caution that this could backfire. This could drive nationalist votes to the Conservatives in certain ridings, which would actually then allow the Liberals to come up the middle and win through a split between the Bloc and the Conservative Party. So this is kind of a Hail Mary pass, and we'll see which it goes. But there were quite a few people I spoke to yesterday that said, yeah, on the surface this is really good, but let's see how this actually turns out in the rest of actually on election night in the province. Also, I know like the National Post had a big Legault, Quebec says, vote O'Toole. I'm not sure how much that helps Erin outside of Quebec. I'm not sure a big headline that Quebec thinks that they'll get more powers and special stuff if you vote for Erin O'Toole. I think probably outside of the province of Quebec, I doubt that headline. If I was the Conservative war room, I'd be downplaying the front page of the National Post as much as possible.
That's not what you sent to those People's Party supporters to try to get them back.
No.
No.
Get on the bandwagon, guys. Allons-y. I'll be quick about this. I can't pretend to know how to interpret this because I'm an Anglo and I'm not in the Quebec milieu, but I've heard people talk about the vote splits, and I grant that may be possible. And I've heard people talk about why it doesn't matter and how this world is different now, and an endorsement like that doesn't pack the punch that it used to. But and people may think your reference to Duplessis is anachronistic, David, but I don't, because I don't know that there's been a premier, Levesque, Duplessis, Legault, who has that kind of relationship. Like, he seems to be a matter of consensus approval in the province of Quebec.
Well, then Levesque endorsed Mulroney in '84.
Yeah, I just think that, let me put it this way. I'd be very, very wary of dismissing it. I think that it could matter.
All right. So since Gordon Pinson's here, we should have a Hey You.
Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats. The Hey Yous are about to begin.
So, who's ready with a Hey You today?
Well,
Jenny?
my Hey You is a bit different. My Hey You is to all of those people that have not voted yet. If you have not requested a mail-in ballot, if you have not already gone to your returning office this morning or today, the advance polls open. You're able to go. There's 4 days of voting. You're able to go and cast your ballot, get it out of the way, so you're not too busy and you don't forget. So go and vote.
Scott?
My Hey You is to the Liberal campaign. Stage 1 was, why are we having this election, and answering it very badly for almost 2 weeks. Stage 2 was the rally, where you were able to put O'Toole on his back foot with Say Anything, Aaron. And now we're into stage 3. We're into the closing argument for the next week post-debate. Get this debate behind you as fast as possible. Take back control of the narrative of this campaign. But we've talked about it 100 times. Somehow in the elixir that you serve up to Canadians in this next 7 days, Liberals, you're going to have to introduce a double dose of please, please vote for me, but also humility. And I think the key is this: don't tell people they should vote for you. Ask people to vote for you.
Very good. Very, very good. Very good. My Hey You goes out to the Liberal campaign also. And since I am a hammer, everything I see is a nail. And it is coming out of the debate to me evidently clear that we're only going to win this if O'Toole gets disqualified. So I think, frankly, you got to double down on the negative going into the last week. It's not a last week of positive. It's a last week of negative. And I think O'Toole is proving to be a difficult opponent, so I'd run against the Conservative movement in Canada, which I think is a less difficult movement in this last week. That's our show for today. I want to thank you all for listening in. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, TELUS. I'd like to thank Nick Taylor-Vasey and Politico for being here, Frank Graves and EKOS for their support, Jenny and Scott for another week of The Curse of Politics, and we will be back on Monday morning for the last week of this campaign. Thanks for listening right through the whole piece, everybody, and appreciate the support you're showing us. We'll see you Monday.